All right, time being 4:30, I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. I would recommend that we take items 7, 8, and 9 off the agenda, as I have not had a chance to go through and review those in detail. Also, I'd like to have Jill highlight the changes again from last time like you normally do, if you could.
I wasn't listening.
Oh.
Sorry. Can you say
Okay,
that again?
but anyway, for tonight, I'm recommending that we approve the agenda without items 7, 8, and 9. Someone make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mike seconds. Any questions on that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. And Jill, before we go on to the next one, typically in the past, you redline changes from one version to the next
Yes.
so that we don't have to lay them side by side and try to figure it out.
Okay.
Could you do that, please, for all those? And then we'll have it on the agenda for next month, possibly.
Do it with the ones as they are presented,
Right.
attached tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Item number 2, discuss letter from Michael Rice, owner of Easy Street.
Okay, so I included the letter from Mr. Rice in your packet, and he was asking the Finance Committee to consider waiving the license fees for the upcoming renewal, which is typically a June agenda item, the licenses. So based on the COVID, based on the fact that they've not been able to be open for business for the last 2 months, I also attached in your packet, the second page was a letter from Doug Court, who is the Wapaka County President of the Tavern League of Wisconsin. I also included an email from Deborah Neisser, and it was the licenses could with no minimum could be free. There are licenses that have minimums, and that's listed in this email. And then the fourth page is what the League of Municipalities suggested. They basically just stated the same thing with the fees and the minimums and stuff like that. So I did a little math and I added up. Now, the Class A licenses are like your Depot Street Station, your Quick Trip, R&K Convenience, Coppersmith Foods. The Class A, a good way to think of it as A means away. So they're selling it and it's being consumed off-site. So those places have been open since the COVID. They've not been restricted to do their business at all. So the Class B licenses are the ones that I added up. And there's a total of $7,500 in potential revenue there for those license renewal fees. It's entirely a committee decision. The licenses are in effect from July 1 through next year, June 30th. So I don't know that COVID is going to affect that licensing year. Now, that said, it may have affected this licensing year, and we already accepted monies for it, and they, through no fault of their own, they've got a couple of months that they've not been able to do business. They've not been able to be open. So once again, it's a Finance Committee decision. I assured Mr. Rice I would take his letter and take it to Finance, because this is not a Jackie decision.
Right.
So that's where it sits. I know the money that was in revenues, anticipated money has been budgeted. I completely understand that. You can't go back and say, oh, never mind, we're not going to have that money now. That's impossible. So there's a couple of solutions. You could defer collection of this until maybe July or August, and then they could potentially be up and running again and have, a chance to get that cash in hand, so to speak. I don't think it's a matter of what you do for one, you have to do for all, because all licenses aren't the same, and the A's have been open.
Okay.
have been able to run their businesses. Some of them doing better than they were before. So that's the facts of it. If you have a question that is in your brain right now, I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Thanks for the description, Jackie. All right, what's the feelings here? Deferring it, at least deferring it seems to make sense.
I defer it.
I just
David.
have one question, sorry. The 7,500, that's just the bars that can't be open at all.
Nope, that's the Class B licenses, and those include the hotel. Familiar Grounds has a Class B. I sorted them out by Bs. Some of those have been open. Some of them, Breeze Inn, I believe they've been serving food to go. I don't believe they've been, I don't know, but they're not allowed to be open for the bar, for people to come in and drink in-house and stuff. So let's see, I do have a couple that are not gonna renew, and we knew about that. It's like your John's Bar, included in that is Jolly Rogers, Marley's, New London Lanes, El Tequila, the New London Family Diner, the Waters. They all have combination Class B or just the Class B beer, all that I mentioned. So.
What's your thoughts?
I put it off till the deferral period.
But that would be kind of your recommendation. I mean, feeling, Jackie, would put it off till July or August or what?
Would you like to see it deferred for 60 days for those that maybe have not been able to be open at all? I mean, the Waters and Hillby's out, a lot of them are doing to-gozies, and I think
They're still not doing well. No,
And they're- right.
it's still, if you're gonna defer one, you might as well defer them all. It'd be a lot less
and
paperwork.
that's what I feel. I feel it should
It'd
be.
be a lot less paperwork.
I'm
Right.
just trying to think.
Now, that said, Quick Trip has already sent me their money and renewed. So has Coppersmith
Gonna get a lot
Foods, so
done.
has the Dollar General. Some of these bigger, they've sent them in already. And they're not concerned with it. They know they're coming. They've got a bigger budget to work with that they can shell that out.
Well, I would not give anything to the Class A license. Just the Class Bs that are losing money.
I think
Bad
that's,
deal.
Yeah.
probably amenable to the businesses in town. When you speak at economic development and they're begging for help.
Yep.
Yeah.
This isn't completely giving away your revenue, but it is saying we'll work with you, which I think is huge. The only caveat to this is they need to pay their $8 publication fee, because that is actually set by the state.
Okay.
And that pays for their ad. So the reason you want to ask for that $8 is because that is money the city actually outlays to pay for that ad.
Yeah. Okay.
So that way we're at a neutral. And we aren't losing that. So if they come in and pay their $8, we will put that ad in the paper and we'll consider, renewal. That's all they'd have to pay at this time would be the $8.
Is that your motion then, Fred?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
John, seconds. Okay. Any further discussion?
I only question if 60 days is long enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if 60 days is quite long enough.
Oh, we could maybe revisit
Yeah,
it again. in 60
Jack,
days.
Jackie, what would be the timeline for that if,
Whatever you folks set.
well,
So 60 days, it's due by May 31st. So 60 would give you to,
Mid-July.
1st of July.
and at that point, if,
First of
Bring
August.
back those
That would be first
businesses
of
that are
August.
having problems.
if things didn't lift by then, could we waive it, reduce it? We could revisit this. We could either waive it or reduce it or find a different source.
There's
or-
nothing saying you can't.
Okay. And then maybe in the meantime, for the legal ad, maybe even the printers of that would waive that cost as well, because they're doing some programs out there. So that could reduce the cost for the city as well. I could look into that because I've seen some things going around in the industry about waiving certain things for these businesses that have to be
Okay.
closed. So,
Okay, and so.
so deferring it would give us time to think about it, revisit it.
Would this go in front of council then and it needed council?
I would think we
approval?
should,
So you have until then to
Council.
look it over and then we can
Yeah.
firm up
Yep, yep.
the specifics.
Mike?
You said something though about $8. It has to go to the state or something,
No, $8 is what the city collects. It's
right?
included in their license, but that's the publication fee that the city pays.
So actually, can we defer that too, or?
We can. It's just
Yeah, I
if you're
mean,
gonna
go ahead
waive
and
it,
come in
if you're
for
gonna
$8.
continue forward and waive
Yeah,
it,
with the paperwork.
then the $8 you can't waive. And you don't have to waive the publication fee. And that's what I'm reading in a lot of the information coming from the league and stuff like that. And from the licensing at the Department of Administration. So,
so
Is there
Any-
gonna be some type of discount on that for them? The 2 months are closed, they gotta pay for the other months, but they go,
the motion is just to defer it, not to eliminate or reduce the
so you
fee.
don't know how you're gonna do that.
Right.
it may change in the future, Tom, is what I'm hearing. The months that they're closed right now, they already paid for these licensing months last June, last May
Oh,
when
yeah.
they reapplied. So that's kind of a in the past thing. I guess it's a matter of if they come and ask you to then make things prorated, then it would be another decision for you folks to make at that time.
Okay.
I think the deferral is gonna give them a heavy sigh of, okay, that's one less thing we have to worry about paying this
Right now.
month yet.
Yeah.
Is the motion to defer all of it, or we,
No, just a Class B.
no, I mean, but the $8 thing.
Oh, and the
Oh.
motion was to collect the $8, not defer that,
That would
I
be,
think you can defer the whole amount.
or
you're
defer the whole amount,
deferring-
Fred.
Yeah.
Defer the whole amount, okay?
Yeah.
The motion is defer the whole amount, including the $8, so we don't have to.
So if we discuss waiving, then we want to discuss the $8 at that.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
All right, any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Jackie. Our businesses are really hurting, or some of them.
I'm thinking I should send a letter out to them, but should I wait until council, or do you feel that council would agree and this is okay for me to send the letter out?
I think wait till after council.
I wait after council just in
Okay.
case some legal question
Never
comes
know,
up or
yeah.
whatever. You never know what's going to happen.
Sure.
I'll just have it, that's why I thought I don't want to send it out and then have to.
Yeah,
recall.
exactly. Could be embarrassing to send it out.
Exactly.
And upsetting for them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, I'll proceed that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 3, discuss city cell phones for officials. I think that was a Lou one, wasn't it? Maybe we can move on. I don't know.
I know
Lou's-
Mark wants one too, but
Well, I guess if it's just out there for general discussion, I think that certain people should, like, I think the mayor deserves a city cell phone.
Yes.
He's sacrifices a lot of, we all know what that position brings, and our police officers have them, different officials, and he's expected to have certain office hours. So something to think about if it's just for discussion tonight and something in the future, but.
Well, I guess we can go ahead with it. I mean, this is on the agenda to discuss city cell phones for officials. As John said, we think Mark really needs one, should have one, because he's getting a lot of calls and during the day and so forth. I know, who else would need a cell phone? Is for officials on here. Do you guys think we should have
For
one?
the garage,
Pardon me?
for the garage?
They all have. You go ahead and answer. Jackie.
I'm the one that actually takes care of the cell phone plan for the cities, and the police
Oh.
department takes care of their cell phone plan. So the first question is cell phones versus smartphones. Who needs what? There's different plans. if it's a non-smartphone, like old flip phone, typically I've been going through US Cellular with that one because it's like 3 or 5 cents a minute. And it's really cheap. There's no like monthly fee, or it's like a $3 monthly fee, and then it's 3 or 5 cents a minute, which, I mean, a lot of times the amount of calls that we have for our staff, it ends up being less than $5 a month, a charge for those. Smartphones, if you want the data plans on top of that, we're paying 45-ish a month for those. So it all depends on smartphone versus flip phone. I mean, what do you need? And
I would almost think most guys probably have their own cell phones.
But I can't use my cell phone to do anything with the city. For a guy like me, I don't see any emails till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. By then you guys everything's done.
Why can't you use yours?
Because if something happens and somebody sues the city, they can take my phone.
we don't allow you're talking about just emails, right?
Emails, anything.
Okay. So we don't allow non-city devices to connect to the server for emails.
Right,
Oh.
so you can't.
Yep. Cell phone, I mean, if it's just a call, we have plenty of part-time staff that we don't have cell phones to, and we're calling them. So phone calls are fine. It's just that, like Dave said, we don't allow him to get a city email on a non-city device per se. So if it's something that.
And I can't crack my laptop open at work.
But I mean, that's why we have the computers.
I can't take my computer to work.
Well,
I work at a factory.
yeah, I don't take mine to work either, but I just think that not all of the council people definitely don't need a cell phone device, but I would definitely want the mayor to have the red phone and make it red too. The red phone would be ringing, if there was.
Like Ben over at the sewage treatment plant, and I would think Luke, those guys should have one.
I think they have one.
Well, most of those people in those positions, they'll have city cell phones. Some of them have smartphones, some of them have regular flip phones. Yeah.
They already have them, Chad, you said?
What's that?
They already have them,
Oh, yeah.
you said?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the key individuals that need them have them. And like Ted, he didn't really want a smartphone per se, because he just goes to the office and checks his email. Whereas some other staff do have smartphones depending on what they're doing. So. But not everyone does by any means, no.
Dave, I don't think it's really necessary because you can check your,
I don't need one. Mark does.
Mark,
Yes,
yeah. But I mean, you check your email when you get home from work or every other day or something.
So at this point, the only one we're recommending additional would be the mayor.
And a smartphone, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And so at $45, Chad, is right, a smartphone is what you would.
Typically, they got deals going on that the one version older is a free smartphone. The actual device to get it is free. That's what I've seen in the past. And I think it's like $45 a month or somewhere in that, $48 a month for the data and the phone.
Who's that with?
Verizon.
Really?
Yep.
Like, because Spectrum's deal is 45.
With Verizon, you get unlimited voice, text, and unlimited data.
Unlimited data.
Unlimited data.
Yeah, unlimited data with Spectrum, but you have to buy a phone, right?
Could be. It's $45.83 a month.
Wow. That's a deal.
Okay, is there a motion to recommend to council that we get one for the mayor?
I'm so moved that
Mike?
we get a phone for the mayor.
Okay. Is
I'll
there,
second it.
Dave seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Very good.
And just so you know, then you'll see a line item. I will add a telephone line item to the mayor's area, and you'll see that it was not budgeted for it, but then expensed throughout the year.
Yeah.
In case you're
Can I just ask a question? There was a policy that was on the agenda. I mean, is there a new policy that's going to be coming out, or just because I'm the policy keeper, so I'm just curious.
It's right here.
Yeah,
Oak Creek.
policy on there,
Yeah,
I guess.
it comes under the
We
IT
already currently have.
division.
Right, Missy has one, and things for technology related.
Right.
So I guess I just wasn't sure what the Oak Creek policy was for the attachments. Like, is he looking at changing the policy or?
I would recommend that we just look into that.
Defer that.
Police department's got a cell phone policy too. Let's just make sure that we're all in line with that and just see what we got. Cause I don't think Missy or I even knew that was on the agenda, so we haven't even seen that. So if it's something we need to update, we can look at that.
Yeah, so they use just sending that with, because I gave him a copy of our policy.
Oh,
He's just showing it to you guys as an example. That's what he had told me yesterday, so I don't think it was a policy we made. Could be wrong, but he had told me it was just something for you guys to look at, see examples of what could be presented.
Thanks, Chief.
did we answer your question, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, item number 4, resolution regarding sales tax shared revenue. Judy?
Okay, we've been talking about this. I brought it to finance a couple times now. Can I put this up on the screen, please?
You bet. Let's do this.
So what this is Outagamie County has decided to share some of their sales tax with the communities within Outagamie County.
Which one did you want?
The actual agenda, so it's on the actual agenda. There you go, number 4. So what I'm looking for tonight, and we were going back and forth with this, and part of the delay has been with COVID and people not being able to meet. The other delay with this was that Brown County actually had a suit about how these monies could be spent. Because currently the resolution said you take the money in, it's about $21,000, and then you have to reduce your levy. So it's like, why go through the paperwork? But when it went into the Outagamie County Circuit Court, or Brown County Circuit Court, they decided that we can actually use that for capital projects. So it will be of use to us. And I've been going back and forth with Dave from the Hortonville School District, kind of somebody to lean on and talk to about, should we be improving this? Or should we be signing this? And now that they came through with the actual suit that says we can utilize this money, but I would suggest that we never use this for operational expenses, because it's not guaranteed. So they could give it to us this year and not give it to us next year. So it's never a good idea to take a 1-year revenue source and use it for operation. So at this point, I'm recommending that we go ahead, and there's actually 2 items. We have a resolution to accept it, and then there's another form that has to be filled out by the mayor and signed that says this was the line item that was holding everybody back, for the particular purpose of directly reducing the property tax levy. But now that that's been interpreted to include that we can use it for capital, everybody's on board and they're signing them.
Okay.
So, and it does say that it was due April 1st, but the actual due date now is July 1. So that's why we need to get this before council and get it approved so that we can get it back to them, so that we get. Now, the other thing is when they gave us our original estimate of $21,000, we also didn't close down the state. So I did get an email saying, don't expect that kind of money. Not that, I mean, I'm not going to kick a gifters. We'll take whatever we can get, however we can get, but they're anticipating that will be less than what they originally estimated.
Judy, your resolution here, it says, be it resolved that New London does agree to expend the sales tax money for the purpose of directly reducing property tax levy.
Yep, but that's been interpreted within the Brown County Circuit Court. And we have asked Outagamie County to change the terminology, and they said, no, that's up to you as a municipality to interpret in the way in which you want to present it on your budget. So that is some research I will be personally doing when I present the budget, to make sure that I'm in line with what this means interpreted through the Brown County Circuit Court and the League of Wisconsin Municipalities.
So the court basically didn't say anything.
The court, so here it is. So when Outagamie County provided information to municipalities and school districts in November of 2019 regarding the county ordinance, which called for sharing a portion of county sales tax revenue with municipalities and school districts, there was a pending lawsuit in Brown County challenging the use of the county sales tax for new capital construction projects. Brown County Circuit Court Judge John Zakowski issued a decision in that case on March 24th. Prior to that, I've been saying, I'm not sure we should sign this, I'm not sure. So then attached is the reference. So if you would like to read it, if anyone would like to read it, it's about this big. I do have a copy of it, but in it, it says exactly what we were looking for, new capital construction projects. So that's how we're going to interpret it as a community, and that's how we're going to move forward.
All right, sir, motion, go ahead with this.
So move.
Mike makes motions. Tom seconds. Any further questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So that will be recommended now to council.
That will go to council,
Yeah, the
yeah.
agenda for council. Okay, very good. Any other motion related to that we need, Judy?
So I would just put them both together. So one is just an agreement and then one is the resolution.
Yeah.
So I'll just
So-
list them both together.
Good. All right, so we're up to item number 5, finance director's reports.
I think we're at 5, so then I go through the revenues. And then we do do you want me to do the finance director report first, or do you want me to go through
I'm sorry, the
the monthly?
revenues, the expenditures and so forth.
All right, so here we are at a quarter of the year over with. I can barely believe that. Time goes so fast. And as you can see, in our revenues, we've collected about 65% of our property tax revenue. I'll be talking about this a little bit later and some of the things that I've been going through with the COVID-19 and some revenues, and I'll be talking about property tax, and I'll save that till later and what's going on at the county level. Tax equivalents, we know that we collect a lot of that through, maybe you don't know, through the utility. So that's a payment in lieu of, that comes in November. So a lot of these, and I'm doing a lot of this for your knowledge. A lot of our revenues come in at specific times through the year or quarterly or semi-annually. So a lot of times the actual percentage won't be exactly at 25%. You'll see that either be higher or lower depending on when those revenues come in. The one that I was super excited about at this point is that interest revenue, because that's going to go over the next couple months, because I already looked at the local government property or the LGIP and they're at 0.51. And that's where our bank floats with. So we were almost at 2% when we had all our tax revenue in there. So that's going to help us going through this year. I'm thinking we're going to hit 100%, but then that depends on when we open our state back up. So does anyone have any particular questions on the revenue? Anything? I'll be going through these too. That's why I put the pie chart.
Particular for Dave, I don't know, at some point you want to walk through each one of those for an understanding, or you feel comfortable.
And I also was going to have him and the mayor.
Okay, good.
I'll meet with
Good.
her.
Yep, and we
Excellent.
talked about
Same time.
me having
Yep.
him and the mayor in during the day sometime if he has a day off where he wants to talk about finances. And I was gonna go item by item with them and
Excellent.
explain to them
Good.
exactly how this.
Very good.
What do you expect from the utilities amount?
There's about $700,000. That's our payment in lieu of taxes, give or take, depending on how tax rates go, depending on how values go up and down, but it's about $700,000.
That's in lieu of taxes.
You are correct. That's what that's called. All right, then our expenditure side, always at this time of the year, you're gonna see, I'd like to go to this one because it's a little more detail. Again, we're at quarter of the year, so 25%. Most of these are in line. You can see the one not here is insurance, because you have to pay insurance at the beginning of the year and it's for the entire year. So insurance is always paid up front. The one that isn't is workers' comp, so that's paid quarterly. So you will see this go up and over 100% and then come back down as we get dividends and money in from the utility. And then I distribute some of that throughout the budget. So everyone else's cemeteries high only because we had a payout with Randy. Those are actually in the designated funds, so eventually you'll see that coming back into normalcy, but it's high now just because we had someone retire.
Okay. So for the 20 cemetery service, I assume will eventually show up in here. For the year, we're pretty much going to be on schedule for that, or, I mean, for what we budgeted? Or,
We're gonna see this one go over budget this year only because we had that payout within the
with Randy,
cemetery.
okay.
But otherwise it would
Okay,
not
all
have.
right, all right.
But because he had a sick leave come out
That's-
on that one line item,
Yep.
that's just how it's gonna be for
Yep.
this year. And we know it's just gonna be an odd year this year with the changing of the guard over there. But then next year, we're gonna get that budget in order. We're working on some capital items, so, yeah.
Just something we'll keep in mind from the cemetery side is that if voter looks at the reports here, they're going to see that the expenses for cemetery exceeded our budget. It wasn't because of Tony's cemetery service, it was
No.
because of the payout to Randy.
Does that mean we shouldn't spend
No,
any
no.
money at all this year then?
Yeah, don't bury me.
You're fine.
One question. Weren't we looking at raising the perpetual care, whatever it was at the cemetery, to get in line with everybody else?
Yeah, it's supposed to take effect, I think June 1st is at the correct date. We gave a window of opportunity for people to purchase things at the current rate before we kind of dumped it on them. It's been posted on Facebook and the city's website and that, but yes, then we did increase that to match the other cemetery, I'm not good with the names there or whatever, but we were by far the lowest cost of all cemeteries. We brought it up to what we feel is a good level right now. It hadn't been adjusted since 2002, so we just matched the other cemetery, which should be some increase in revenue.
Once we do those things, if you wanted in maybe like July or August, something of that nature, once we see those revenues come in that are at the new rates, I could do an estimate of how that's gonna pay that cemetery back differently than it does now, how it's going to support that cemetery, those increase in revenues more than it's being supported now.
Okay, that's good. That'd be good. Okay, anything else on expenses?
I don't know, when does the new rate take effect?
June, correct?
I think it's
June or July, yeah.
I believe.
So anything that's sold after that,
So if
but
you wanna
before
buy a
that
lot-
is the old rate.
Correct.
Right.
So they're giving everybody a chance, letting them know, so they're posting it everywhere, so in
They could
case
do it
they were
right now.
thinking about buying a plot, now would be the time.
Get up and buy one now, Tom.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions on the expenditure side? Then here's our fund balance. So this is money that is, the city sets aside for a particular purpose. This is not that it can never be moved around because it's unassigned fund balance. It is the power of this committee to make changes at any point, except I can't say that. Some of these are not. Hatton Stadium Foundation that we hold funds for. Those are not able to be changed, but capital projects reserve, cable TV is for a specific purpose, the debt service is, boat launches. I guess I can eat my words now because most of these actually are set up for a particular service, but even like phone upgrade, if you guys chose as a committee to move that out of the phone upgrade and utilize it for somewhere else, that is in your power as a committee. But there is a reason that we went through the process of putting these dollars aside. It's because we're going to be using them for that purpose in the future. So if you steal from one to give to another, you know, that's never a good practice because then eventually you got to find the money for that. And here's where last night Chad actually had approved those ticket boat launch, and that will come out of this boat launch fund right here. So this is where all of the revenue goes in for the money for the boat docks, and then that's what it comes out of. So you'll see that whenever he expenses it, come out of this money right here. So we have the retirement reserve. This is what I was talking about, that Randy's money will come out of eventually once I do those adjustments at the end of the year. weather sirens, eventually the chief is gonna
Excuse
decide.
me. Does it show up both in expense and in here?
It will show up at the end of the year. What I usually do is pull it out of the cemetery and show it here.
Here, okay,
Yeah.
good. So the year-end report then will be okay because Randy's.
I could
working
actually
on it.
do that now because it is such a, because it's a department where everyone's kind of
Yeah.
looking at it.
Yep.
So I could do an adjustment now so that it doesn't look that way,
That way.
appear that way. Yeah.
That'd be good. Be good.
All right, I will do that. I'm gonna write it down as myself. We have the weather sirens and eventually we'll decide if we're going to be keeping those or what's happening with those. And these are the ones like the Hatton Stadium, we hold their money in trust. All of these are for purposes of which we cannot touch. The wheel tax, I do that one separately too. This one also is only for roads and road maintenance. And then we have our unassigned fund balance. So we have about $3.1 million in there. Our policy states that we should be at 1.8. We look more to our shared revenue in case anything ever happened to that we could at least fund ourselves for a year. And that's at 2.1 million. Again, this is another amount of money that you want to be really careful about spending because it can go really fast. And then you want to stay within your guideline. We have a policy that says we cannot go below 1.8. Our auditors look at us to be at more like 1.3, 1.4. And then when you bond, the higher this is, the less you're going to pay in interest. There's all kinds of good reasons to have a nice, healthy fund. Unassigned fund.
Or conversely, if that drops real quick, you're gonna have a higher interest rate probably that you're gonna end up paying in bonds.
Correct.
That's the one that Phil likes to see there.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I'm working with Phil right now on a 5-year plan, so we're going through all of that process and then bonding yet this year. So lots of stuff going on. And then here's the wheel tax fund. So we actually collected 18.6. Nothing has been going on yet this year. I know I heard Chad talking about the railroad projects moving forward. I have an estimate pending down here. So I would anticipate at some point here, you'll start seeing some expenditures or expenses coming through for the wheel tax. The wastewater treatment plant, so there's still about $731,000 left in their bonding over there. They're getting pretty close to finishing that project. I would anticipate in the next, couple months that this would be down to zero. And there's all the bills that they paid. All right, so what I provided to you this time, I've spent some time, I thought it was important that I spend some time thinking through how COVID is going to affect us as a city. And so to give you kind of a big picture of that and not bog you down in the details, I thought I do this every year for our audit. So I fill out these pie charts. The first 16 pages of the audit is on me. And what it's supposed to do is give the average user an easier way to read the health of the city. And so what I wanted to depict here to you is that the property taxes that we collect are 46% of our revenue. It's a very large portion of the revenue that the city takes in. We do not have this. I do not anticipate us not collecting. So almost half of our revenue, we can almost wholeheartedly say that we're going to collect from year to year. We collect the first installment of our taxes. Then it goes off to the counties, and they're the ones who have to pay us at the end of August for all of our taxes, and then they have to go out and try to collect if people are delinquent. I'd never want that job. So we're very fortunate that we have them doing that delinquency collection for us. Now, one of the things that's going on at the state right now, and I haven't heard from either county, is that they're looking at allowing taxpayers a 2-month delay in paying until I think it was October. And then the counties have to decide whether they're going to allow their citizens that extra time. I have not heard back from either of them. I know Wapaka County, and they're our biggest side, told me that there's no way that they're gonna wait, because we then collect in September and they will be doing October. He said, there's no way that I'm gonna not pay you in September and then turn around and pay you again in October. So his philosophy is, if we decide to give them a 2-month extension, we're just gonna pay you anyway, because I don't want to go through that process twice of settlement. So that's what Wapaka County said. Outagamie said, Outagamie hasn't decided yet. Well, I guess neither county actually has decided that they're gonna do it yet, but that's what Wapaka told me. I'm not going through that settlement process twice, so even if they extend it, you're gonna get your settlement in August. So either way, we're gonna get 46% of our revenue. So you can see the other large share is state shared revenue. So 28% between the two, we're talking 75% of our revenue is guaranteed. We're in a biannual budget with the state, so we have 1 more year of shared revenue. My biggest concern is that the state isn't going to get the money that they're anticipating, and that they're going to not look at shared revenue, but highway aids as where they're gonna cut. Now, highway aids is in this operational grant area right here, the 7.88%. So when I look at big picture, I feel pretty confident that 75% of our revenues going forward that we're gonna collect. I also did a little research on Park and Rec. I've been in contact with Ginger. And I feel like the savings or the revenue we're losing in, they don't really hold a lot of programs within this time period. So it was a very fortunate time actually that it was the programs were closed down. I believe we will save that in the wages. Okay, we'll talk about wages. How about unemployment? So far, we're at about $1,600 in unemployment payout. If I take that and push it off till about July, we're talking about $6,000. I budgeted 10. We are high in budget, which is like, oh yeah, good. So last year we spent $4,000 in unemployment. If we double that, then we'll be at 8, and we have 10 in our budget. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But again, this all depends on when are we going to open our state back up? When is the economy, and then are we going to open it and close it? And so I'm just trying to think through in my mind by talking to people, like, how is this going to affect us? I talked to the court. They felt okay that they had some wages they were saving because they're not holding court anymore, because they felt like their revenue would probably be down, but then they would save it on the expense side. So I have been going through this thought process with everyone. The library, I'm not too concerned about. There's this, I don't know. How about your library year?
I am. It's based on last year, so it won't affect us next year.
Okay.
And as long as we keep our revenue at the same, because it's cost per circuit. So our circuits drop down to nothing, but if our budget remains the same, it'll be more per server. So it should even out. But
Okay.
they may, the counties may want to tweak it because of this time.
Right.
But next year is based on
So we're
past
going,
year.
okay,
It's
going
not
into
this year.
next year.
So we'll be okay next year. And this year we're getting 230, so it'll probably be around the same.
Okay. So I just wanted you to know that I have been spending some time thinking through this process and how it's going to affect us. I'll keep a temperature of if I think something is really going to hit us hard. How are we then we need to start, how are we going to manage this? What should we do? What are we going to do moving forward? I know we've probably all heard that the state of Wisconsin has told the departments to save, that they have to slash their budgets at each department by 5%. So far, I don't think that's anything that we would need to consider, but if that's something that we would have to come back to the table and start talking about, I think it's a good idea. Looked at health insurance. That's a different animal because COVID has increased, but nobody's going to the doctor, which is decreased. So that might actually take care of itself. Right, so it might be a wash. What are the other big line items I've taken a look at? Voting. I know they're gonna pay us a little bit. How much they're gonna pay us, who knows? But we feel like, again, we only have a couple voting poll places open, so I think that'll take care of the additional dollars we spend in postage. So, does anybody can you think of anything that you're really concerned about when it comes to revenues and expenditures at this time? I did set up a COVID account, not myself, but April and Jill and myself, to track the stay-at-home, non-working, being paid employees. And the reason for that is because if FEMA or the state or any of those revenue sources decide that they will reimburse us, all we have to do is press that code and off they come. And I can tell you, as of today, it's $36,000, and that was as of the last payroll. So yeah, and somebody had mentioned that in one of the meetings that I went to, that they set up a COVID account. So yeah, we got together and we set that up so that moving forward, it would just be a matter of pulling that up and what is our number. So we will see. I keep crossing my fingers. I have not found a revenue source yet. I'm thinking, my gut tells me we're on our own because everybody's kind of in the same boat. So
But that's good that you got that set up. Like Chad went through with our tree cutting and all that other stuff. You have to go back and dig that stuff up, right? You have to do that.
Lived and learned, right?
Dollars that.
Yeah, never
But-
too old to learn. So I figured that out. So again, if there's anything that you guys think of at any point where you think, you're thinking of a revenue and an expense and thinking, oh, I wonder if Judy's thought about this or how this is going to affect, just shoot me an email and I'll email you back and we can talk about it. And then sometimes it also wakes me up to something that I haven't thought about. So I would appreciate that communication if you're thinking about something. So that was, I think, the last item on there. The other thing I did want to talk about, and I sent this email out to all of you, the Clot Road extension of the water main. The utility has decided that they are not going to pay us for their water extension out there. I need you to tell me as a committee if you want to go to the utility and talk to them about that, if that has just been a decision that they're going to make and we're going to move forward. I did talk to the auditors today and we can charge it into our sewer plant. It is a reimbursable expense through our wastewater treatment plant if that is what we choose to do. If that is how we choose to expense it. Because we're non-regulated, we have more authority to decide what that plant pays for. So they did say that we could charge it through our wastewater treatment plant if that is what we choose to do.
It's gotta be a lot of money.
That's $142,000.
I do not think they're gonna change their mind.
But Mike, you sit in on some of their meetings, don't you?
I'm on utility commission. It was brought up at our meeting and I think that decision is final. They figure, utility commission figures, that's a city expense. The city made that agreement to extend that, not the water utility. So I do not see them changing their mind. I think we're gonna have to eat it. That's just my opinion from what's happened at utility meetings.
So we can't really make a motion because it wasn't a line item, but I'm going to take that and then probably include it in our audit so that it's correct from this, because I learned of it before they're finished, so I have to let them know, and they obviously asked me about it. So that's what I will communicate to them, and then we'll move forward from that. I may put it on the next finance committee agenda as a line item so that you're giving the end all be all of, yes, go ahead and charge that to the wastewater treatment plant.
Did they give a reason why?
I think, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think it's because it wasn't discussed prior to the project, correct? I think that's what my understanding was, that the city went ahead and approved the extensions, improved everything, and it wasn't discussed prior to that, right?
Oh. Okay, good. Anything else on your report, Judy?
Nope, anyone have any questions?
Can I ask a couple questions?
You can.
I had a citizen that was wondering where the money for the old cheese plant, did they donate some funds to us? Is that a true statement or not a true statement? Or the owner of Wolt, or is there any monies that?
That was to the community foundation,
To the,
the community foundation,
okay,
and she donated a very substantial amount, very many millions,
right.
to go to mainly the communities of New London, Waiwega, where the workers from her plant
The library.
came from.
So the library got that
So
money?
for the library project,
Okay,
she donated. I mean,
okay.
it was donated to the community.
Yeah.
To the library.
There are a
Chamber got
number of, I mean, this is an ongoing,
Yeah, the chamber might have got some too.
the chamber, the schools, scholarships, some of these civic organizations right now that are, say the Shamrock Club applies for a grant because they took a huge hit. It's going to be an ongoing forever, for as long as,
So he just asked me where those funds are being distributed, and I had to be honest, I said I didn't know the answer.
Isn't there a committee?
You know.
Yes.
It was supposed to be a committee, and April was supposed to be on it.
Could she hear us?
She could probably speak.
April, you
Okay.
want to jump on?
Can you speak of that, April?
April, you gotta unmute yourself.
What was the specific question about the committee?
He was talking about the funds that came from the Wolt family, and how are those funds being distributed?
There is an advisory committee made up of local residents that will meet with the community foundation. And the last time we met, I believe we awarded the library project. Fall Fest was given a small grant, and I can't remember the third. But like Johnny had said, that's ongoing funds that will always go into Waiwega Fremont area in London.
So every year it might go to somebody else to benefit somebody in the community. Okay, that's.
So
Trail.
every year it goes to a different organization depending on what the committee approves. Is that correct, April?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And one other thing is, I was wondering, is there something we can do to help any of the small businesses in town? I don't know if we have any funds that, I mean, this is probably economic development, but I was just asking if there is something, because I mean, obviously there's a lot of people struggling right now, and I don't know if we have any means of helping, or it's just a question. I talked to April about that as well. We were hoping that maybe there's somehow, some way that we could help these struggling businesses.
I think the best way is to get them in contact with those state resources, because I think there's some great programs that are being ran through the state and federal government. Some loan programs for sure that are, I believe they get the money, and then at some point, I don't think they have to pay those back. I'm not exactly sure how they run because I haven't read them, but that's my understanding of some of those loan options.
There's state
Correct me
and
if I'm
federal
wrong.
things available.
Yeah.
I
It's
did saw
really
an article on
hard
the state's
as a-
program this morning.
And you know, I'd love to I grew up in a small business, so
Yep.
I would love to say that, you know, this is my perspective. It's really difficult when we're holding citizens' tax dollars. And then how do we choose and what do we do? It's a very difficult spot for us to be in. That's all I am, you know, and then what economic development would decide to do from there. But it's just a tough spot, because then you also have citizens who are in tough spots and it's their money, you know. So it's just be really careful about, I think, about how that works out for us.
Okay. Anything else Under questions and answers?
Well, did we have something to do with retirement when John was here? Did we borrow some money or something? What did we do with that
John,
number? It was quite a while ago. I thought that had something when, so somebody retired, it wouldn't be a surprise.
we have those funds set aside in assigned fund balance. Correct.
That's where they are.
Yep. Yes, and he was the one who pushed me to get that schedule put together so we could put those funds aside. And we are 100% funded, cash-based funded.
So if somebody's retired, there's no big surprise.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes it's a surprise, but.
Then I find out.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, there's a motion to
Make
adjourn.
a mo- so
Mike
moved.
so moves, Tom seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. And thank you, Judy, for a very good overview.
Thank you. Thank you, April.